All right. My name is Brett. I'm the director for Zealand Recreation, and I'm kind of leading the charge on our August pickleball leagues. So we have people here in this meeting that could either be from our individual women's ladder league, could also be in our men's doubles league, could also be in our mixed doubles league. So I'm going to try to speak to all of that just a little bit, and then open it up for questions afterwards. I'm going to share my screen here so we can review a couple of things together. All right. So first things first, I'm going to kind of teach you how to navigate, how to find information throughout the season. So I'm on zealandrecreation.org. So if I go to zealandrecreation.org, this is what I find. You can find pickleball information in two different spots. You can hover your mouse over the sports tab and then go find pickleball right here. You could also click on adult programs and you could find it here or down here. You could also go over to the adults tab here and scroll down and find it. So it's multiple different spots. However you get there doesn't matter. When you get here, here's information on the women's ladder league. Here's information on the mixed doubles league. Our July session just ended tonight, actually. So that'll be deleted here tomorrow. And then here's information on our men's doubles league. League rules for each league is listed right there. And then court assignments, score sheet, and standings, where you will enter scores after each night, which we'll go over in just a second. So schedules, standings, scores, all that stuff is right here. If you click on one of these, for example, this is the women's. You can see there's three different tabs on the bottom. There's a court assignments tab. Each of you have this no matter what league you're in. There is a score sheet, which is right here. You should find your name right here on the left. You enter your score after each night right here, and that's how I'll track standings. If you don't enter it, usually the next day I'll hit you up and say, hey, can you enter your score, please? But if you could try to remember to enter it right there. This is a Google sheet that all of you have access to and editable rights to, so you can all type into it on your phone or on a computer. Then each week I will update the standings, and I'll send those standings out to you. You can find it on the bottom tab. So that's kind of how you peruse throughout information for your league throughout this season. We're not going to go over every single rule here, but I'll just kind of go over the main things. So I'm going to go to doubles, and then individual stuff I'll highlight that's different. So it's a 4-week season. Doubles, you will play each team every night in one match to 11. Ladies, you will play each court you're assigned to. So if I go back to this one here, ladies, in your individual league, you will be assigned to a court and you will play a match with each of your partners on your court. So you'll play 3 matches in a night. Jane will play with Mary one match, and then they'll switch. Then Jane will play with Shirley one match, and then they'll switch. And then Jane will play with Carmen in one match, and they'll switch. So you'll play a match with every person on your court once. Let's say Jane and Mary beat Shirley and Carmen 11-7. Both Jane and Mary go into the next match with 11 points. Let's say Jane and Shirley win the next match 11-2. Jane and Shirley then add 11 more points to their score. So Jane then has 22 and so on. So at the end of the night, you should have a total of 3 different scores that equals your total score that you then enter into the score sheet. So each score that you get for women for all 3 of the matches should a total of max will be 33 because you play 3 total matches. Or if you get 7 one game, obviously it goes down from there. For doubles, one second. Go back here. Doubles, it's a similar concept, except you're taking your team score with you to the next match. So let's look at the co-ed doubles here. Let's say you lose 7-11, and then you win 11-7, and then you win 11-2. You get 7 plus 11 plus 11, which is 29 in my head. You put 29 as your score for that night for your team. Hope that makes sense. If you're a little bit confused about that, feel free to reach out. So essentially, you're trying to be the team that has the most total points, or the individual that has the most total points at the end of the league, and the league winner will get a gift card to a local restaurant. For women, just a heads up that it does not matter what court you are on. So you do not have to be on court A, for example, to win the league. You could be on court C the entire time and win the league. All that matters is what your total point score is, as opposed to what court you end up on. So the ladder league is a little bit different than our doubles leagues, because after each week, based on the scores, the last place person from court A, for example, will move down, and the first place person from court B will move up, and so on. So you'll move up and down a little bit based on how you're doing. But just know that the court you're on has nothing to do with whether or not you can win the league. That is true for all of them. Women's league, for the doubles leagues, men's or co-ed, the court you are on has nothing to do with your point total. It's just a matter of scheduling. Back to the rules here. Let's go to weather cancellation. If we're going to cancel something, we'll send you an email. If you do not get an email from me, the league is still on. So just know that. If you have not get an email, it's still on. If you show up and the weather is bad, feel free to make your own decision and head home and just let me know you're not going to play that night. But when in doubt, show up. We also post on our social media pages and on our website. There's also a weather cancellation line you can call to figure out what are weather decisions. That's listed right there. So feel free to follow us at Zealand Rec on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook for more information. We just talked about the round robin format for doubles, and we talked about scoring for individuals, so we'll keep it to that. Keep track of your scores. You enter the scores at the end of the night on the score sheet, as I already showed you. The team with the highest score, or the individual with the highest score at the end of 4 weeks, is the winner. And the winner gets a gift card to a local restaurant. Court dimensions are the same as anywhere. They all meet national USA standards. These are the court locations. So if you want to know which courts are which, A, B, C, D. So let's scroll down. That's actually, I can use this as an example. So if you can picture Huizinga Park, let's just say this is the middle fence and the pond is over here. This is court A, this is court B, this is court C, this is court D. So A and C are further east, B and D are further west. The pond is over here. So if we're wondering about which court is which, that's how that's set up there. Moving on. Equipment, provide your own paddle. We are providing balls. You are also welcome to bring your own ball, as long as your ball meets USA National Standard. If you do bring your own ball and want to play with it, make sure your opponent, before your game starts, approves that ball and make sure that you guys are on the same page. We don't want to have a disagreement after the match. There is a bucket that is locked, that is attached to the east side of the fence. If I go back to the diagram here, this is the middle fence, this is the fence. There is a little yellow and black bucket right here locked to the fence that has pickleballs in it. I want you to write this code down. We don't put this on the document on purpose because we don't want people stealing our pickleballs. The code to unlock that bucket is the word spell, S-P-E-L-L. That unlocks the bucket. You can use all the balls in there you want, as long as all the balls go back in it at the end of the night. We should have 26 balls in there at the end of each night. So the combo lock is S-P-E-L-L. Please write that down so you can open it up first week. Policies on subs and missing. Obviously, if you think about it, if you're in a doubles league with 4 other teams and one team doesn't show up, that's a big deal. Same thing with individual. Everybody is dependent on everyone else showing up. So it really is something you have to pay attention to. I understand sometimes you can't avoid a conflict. So one thing I'll say to that is, if you cannot show up, please plan that out now, so you know which night or nights you're going to miss. It is your responsibility to fill your own spot. For the individual league, you have to just find an individual to take your spot. It's that simple. For the doubles league, if you have one partner there, but the other partner can't make it, you can still get points for that week, but you got to find a sub for the one person that can't be there. If both partners can't make it, even if you find a sub for yourself, you do not get points for that week. The same is true for the women's individual league. If you miss a week, even if you find a sub for yourself, just know you do not get the points that your sub got in your place. So it's a pretty big consequence if you can't show up, but it needs to be that way because you can't just bring in a ringer to play for you and get those points if it's not you actually playing. 2 best ways to find subs for yourself. And this, please take note on this. This in letter B, this Facebook page right here, Tulip City Pickleball. If you're not a member of that Facebook page right now, please follow that on Facebook tonight. I have found that everyone has had excellent success a week before, even a day before, even sometimes day of, saying, hey, I'm looking for a sub in the Zealand Mixed Doubles League for this date. Let me know if you can make it. And usually within an hour, they have a sub for themselves. That is my biggest recommendation. If you need a sub sometime throughout this league, is to simply type that into that pickleball page or to that pickleball page, and you almost always find a sub. If you do that and you still can't find a sub, let me know, so I know there might be a conflict, there might be a missing person or team that night. We also have a free agent list of people that have been looking to play that I could also give you access to if you're ever in a pinch. But first thing you should do is go post it on this pickleball page, unless you know somebody who can sub for you and you contact them directly. And people have had, honestly, 100% success finding the sub for themselves by posting it on that page. For the sake of everybody's time, we're not going to go over all the rules. I do need you, if you are unfamiliar with pickleball or you're a newer person to pickleball, please read these rules before your first match next week and make sure you don't have any questions. If you do have questions, send me an email, but please make sure you read the league rules, which again, you can find on our website. I go back here. Sorry, one second. They're underneath each of your sections right there. So please review those carefully before you play. We are following all USA standards for pickleball, but please make sure you review it. I'm going to highlight a couple things here that have stood out to me. Number one, in serving, let serves is a pretty recent rule change for USA Pickleball. Let serves are now legal. What that means is the ball can hit the net on a serve as long as it goes over the net and lands in the proper quadrant. That is a legal serve and court, and the game continues. That's a pretty recent change for USA Pickleball. One thing we're not following USA rules on, which I think is pretty typical, is USA rules is you win by 2. We're not doing that. It's win by 1. If we do win by 2, some of the other games that you are dependent on ending, so your next match starts on time, could take forever. So that's why we want all games to try to end close to on time, so we only go win by 1 rather than win by 2. Let's see here. Gonna keep going. Okay, number 8, determining serving team. Any fair method can be used to determine which player or team has first choice of side, service, or receive. So you could volley, you could do rock, paper, scissors, doesn't matter, but make sure you and your opponents do something to determine who is serving first and who is doing serve receive first and which side you start on, etc. Switching sides. To ensure fair play, teams must switch sides when the leading team gets to 6 points. That's trying to help out if there's like a strong wind, and there are wind nets out there, but sometimes it doesn't do the greatest job of stopping the wind. So please make sure you switch side as soon as the leading team gets to 6 points to make sure that nobody's at a disadvantage if wind is truly playing a factor. And number 10, determining in and out calls. It is the responsibility of the team on the side of the net where the ball lands to make the in or out call. So you should not defer it, but if in doubt, the ball should be called in, and or the team that was on the side where the ball landed can defer the opponent to make the call. So if you're like, you know what, I have no idea and I'm not sure what to say, you can defer to your opponent. But as soon as you defer to your opponent, you can't argue the call. They can make the call themselves. As soon as you defer, you've given up your right to call in and out. So it's the team on the side of the net that makes the call. If we get into a situation where there's a big argument about it and there's a strong disagreement, my recommendation is to simply replay the point rather than getting into a big he said, she said conversation and maybe a little bit of conflict. Let's just use common sense and say, you know what, neither of us are 100% sure, and the serve receive the team on the side where the ball landed doesn't want to call it, then just do a redo. Those are the main things. One other thing to highlight to you guys is I am not going to be there next week. I typically come to the first week, but I'm going to be in Colorado at my brother's wedding. So I'm not going to be there. So I know some of you have played with us before, but I really have just gone over everything that you really need to know. But if you have questions between now and the first night, just let me know. If you get there and there are people there using the courts, just point to the sign that we have on the fence that says Zealand Recreation is reserving the courts, and just politely ask them to honor that and to step off the court. We haven't had zero issues with that so far, but if that comes to the point where you show up and we have the courts reserved and somebody's using the courts, just point to the fact that we have the courts reserved. Not all of you are using all the courts. Quite frankly, every night we have at least one court open that's not going to be used by our league. So you don't have to kick them out. You can just say, can you please use a different court so we can use these courts. That's my spiel. I'm going to open up for Q&A. If you do not have questions, you are welcome to go, but make sure you read the rules thoroughly before opening night next week. So I'll open the floor. If you don't have questions, head on out. Thanks for coming. Otherwise, I'll stick around. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Brett, I had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
I know on these ladder leagues and then even in the men's, you play 3-4 games. Those can go pretty quick. Is there a chance? Maybe not for this time, but just consideration to play 2 games against each team or each individual or with each individual?
Steve, I think that's a good point. Not for this time, but let's keep that in mind. And if you guys are feeling like, Steve, are you in the men's doubles?
Yeah, I'm in the men's doubles. Yep.
I'm open to that, quite frankly. Like, if I would say that if you guys want to have a conversation about that on opening night and say, hey, do you guys want to go rather than 45 minutes, stick around and play more than the matches assigned? I'm fine with that as long as everybody plays the same amount of matches. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. You
guys to play an extra than nobody else does. So I'm fine with you guys coming up with a system like that as long as all are on the same page. And maybe after the first week, you guys could send me a note and said, hey, we all are in agreement. We're going to double it up, and that's fine with me.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Brett.
Yep, good question. Not to intimidate anybody, but Steve won our first ever league here in Zealand. So he's probably going to walk around with his head really high.
Right. Yep.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. If you think of something, my email is there. Even though I'm on vacation, I'll have my email close if something comes up for opening night next week where there's any confusion. I'll make sure you guys are good to go. Anybody other questions before I head out?
Thanks, Brett.
Taylor, my man.
Hey.
We got the men's league going, man.
I love it. Thanks for doing it, man.
You
really
bet.
appreciate it. It's be good.
Yeah,
it should be fun.
glad to do it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. You guys
Thanks,
have a good
guys.
night.
Take care.
All right. See ya. Ciao.
Yeah.
Have a good night.